Today, I'm with the first pick. It's never too early for a 2026 NFL mock draft. And I say that with the understanding that we are 357 days away from the 2026 NFL draft. I'm Ryan Wilson. That's former Titans GM Rand Carthon. This is episode 204. And here to help us are the guys from the Cover 3 podcast, North Carolina's own Chip Patterson, and Tom Fornelli, who's not exactly happy about how these teams played out today. Hey, guys, how you doing?
I'm great. It's good to be back after being so triumphant last year as a show. Ryan, clearly we take a lot of the credit for those all of those correct picks that we had. I mean, we're beating out everybody in the industry. This show right here, unscientifically, is probably the best crystal ball you're going to get at any time in the NFL draft process.
Tom?
Did they really push it back to May? It's 357 days until the next draft.
No, it's next April 23rd. I think that's the math. So there's 365 days.
Oh, wait, never mind. I was thinking there's 356 days. I'm off to a hot start.
We are doomed.
Oh man, I can't count, but hopefully I could pick out a good NFL player.
So last year the teams were me and Chip and Rick Spielman, who we fired, and he was paired with Tom. This year we're going to give Rand Chip Patterson, and I'll be rolling with Tom. And Tom doesn't know how many days are in a year, so we're already off to a hot start. Hey, before we get going, Chip and Tom, give me your favorite all-time Florida Gator football player. Read the room, boys.
Besides Rand,
there it is.
I'll go with Red Taylor.
Oh. Wise to go with a running back too. I think it's like Tom read the room.
Yeah. You know, you're really dialing it in there. Let's go with Spikes. You know, that's about of my like generation. You know, that's my peer more or less. Obviously peers with greatness and football excellence too, but tenacity on the football field. Yeah, I'll go there.
All right. Before we get going, Striker, I wanted to ask Tom a question because I actually watched Wednesday's version of the Cover 3, and they did their 2026 NFL draft big board. It's worth a watch. I watched it just to get sort of up to speed. And Tom, share your quarterback might have reached their ceiling theory, which I actually sort of likes. Share with Rand. I want to get Rand's thoughts on that.
I think, the theory overall is just that, especially now in the years where we've had the extra COVID year and we've had the eligibility, the extra year of eligibility, and who knows what eligibility is going to look like at the college level a year or two from now. You might never run out. I just feel like a lot of the quarterbacks that are coming out in the draft these days, compared to in the past where you'd get a guy who might have only played 1 or 2 years and came out right away, a lot of them are tapped out. And when you draft a quarterback, I think that a lot of what you're trying to look at is the potential for that guy to grow and to develop into something special, because a college quarterback, by and large, is not going to be the kind of guy that can just step into the NFL and on day one be the best quarterback in the league. That just doesn't happen. They all have flaws. They all have things they have to learn. But I feel like it was started like, when you would draft a guy and there was still, you could look at, there's like a ceiling to what this guy can become. And let's look at Josh Allen. Very, very divisive prospect coming out of college because his accuracy was very poor while he was at Wyoming. But you looked at the size, you looked at the athleticism, and you looked at the arm, and you said, if this guy clicks, he will be incredible. And he clicked. He's been incredible. Whereas I look at the quarterbacks this year, like Cam Ward, very talented. I don't know how much room there is for growth. Shedeur Sanders is pretty much Shedeur Sanders. He's going to be who he is right now for the rest of his career in all likelihood. I just think that physically these guys have been tapped out a little bit. And I think it kind of impacts the way that we look at the QBs in the draft.
Hey, Rand, what do you think about that? Just the physical, maybe they've reached their physical peak because they've been in school longer than they had been in the last 10, 15, 20 years.
No, I've long had theory. And it depends on where you're playing, what conference you're in. Really, if I'm going to use my SEC bias and say that most fifth-year seniors come tapped out, right? Because the real ones leave as juniors. Mm-hmm. And then there are certain ones years to, improve your draft stock. But usually the fifth-year seniors you're getting with. That's why I went undrafted as a fifth-year senior, 1-year starter, and here I am on the podcast.
It's a tale as old as time. Former GM ends up on this podcast. All right, so just to confirm, Chip and Rand versus me and Tom. Hey, Stryker, let's look at last year's draft real quick where me and Chip dominated. Thank you for not naming names to embarrass some of the people on this podcast. But way too early 2025 mock draft recap from 12 months ago. 15 of the 32 players picked in the first round in our joint effort, and 4 of the top 10 picks selected in the top 10. In fact, the first 4, Will Campbell, Michael Williams, James Pierce Jr., and Kelvin Banks were the first 4 picks. So we each deserve equal credit for that. As I look down the list quickly here, like Will Johnson was on the list. That's not crazy at the time, and certainly even up to the draft. Travis Hunter, Mason Graham, Emeka Ibuka, Shedeur Sanders. We all thought he was going to go there. Benjamin Morrison got hurt. He would have been a first-round pick. Abdul Carter, Colston Loveland, Malachi Starks, Deion Walker, who I contend had he been healthy, he would have been a top 32 guy because we were talking about him top 15 a year ago. Nick Scorton was on the fringe. Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, Ted McMillan, Tyler Booker, and Tyleek Williams, number 32. That was a deep cut. We did pretty good.
Yeah,
We were
only
the first podcast to mention Abdul Carter. I'm giving us credit for that. We discovered him.
We've been dialed into the Penn State defense. Might have more today. We'll see.
I was going to ask, coming off of last year, did you have him initially as an OLB or ILB?
I had him as I just had him as like an ILB still. I knew that they were planning on putting him on the edge. They were going to try it. I don't even think they thought it was going to be as successful as it was right away. Because, I mean, it was nuts. Like you saw early in the season when they put him out on the edge and how good he looked out there. And then they were still moving him to the middle a little bit. But then I think that coaching staff was just like, why are we moving him back to the inside linebacker? Are you seeing him come off the edge as a pass rusher? Just leave him out there.
Yeah, I just had him as a linebacker, and I think even as a line, we had him as probably 15 or 20, somewhere around there, like a later first round linebacker. And then the move to edge has him turned into one of the top picks in the draft.
We had him 14, Chip. And by the way, Donovan Jackson's first game at left tackle when Josh Simmons got hurt was against Abdul Carter. And I was talking to Donovan at the combine. He goes, yeah, that was rough. I'm not going to lie. I got better after that, but that was a tough introduction to play a left tackle. And he ended up being a first round pick and well-deserved as well. All right, let's do this thing. Chip's got things to do, guys. The handsome team is picking first. So Tom, that's you and I. Woo-hoo. And these are reverse Super Bowl odds. So don't get mad at Stryker. He's the one that makes the Super Bowl odds. We're going in reverse order. Team picking first is the New Orleans Saints. And Tom, they drafted Tyler Shuck. Also, Tom, they could very much be in the quarterback search.
Oh, they'll be in the quarterback search.
Hey, let's have some ground rules here first. Are we or are we not in on Arch Manning coming out?
50-50.
I don't think he will. I think we will look dumb if we don't have him and he's the 1-1.
Fair enough. Okay.
So fellas, Manning family history says that he would return.
Correct.
Peyton returned for his senior year. Eli returned for his senior year. This will be his first year as a full-time starter. I'm just going off of Manning history. But like you guys just said, we would look crazy if we didn't have him on this list.
That is Rand angling for us not to take Arch Manning first overall. All right, Chip, Tom, you're the GM. I'm the assistant GM, so I defer to you, sir.
I mean, Arch is not my QB1 right now.
Okay.
My QB1 is Garrett Nussmeier. I just like what he does as far as his arm strength and his footwork and his pocket presence and the fact that I've seen him play. Whereas with Arch, we've seen snaps of him playing in Texas's offense. He got a few starts when Quinn Ewers was out for a while with injuries. But the offense Texas was running with Arch was very limited because he's not full. They didn't really, his strengths aren't exactly the same as what they had to mold around what Quinn Ewers was dealing with. So it'll be interesting to see what Arch looks like once the offense is built around him. I do think talent-wise, he could prove to easily be the QB1 if he comes out. But right now, I lean Nuss. But the question is, would New Orleans not draft Arch Manning if Arch Manning was there and they had the number 1 pick?
I'll ask you guys this, all three of you. Is there bad blood between Archie and the Saints?
Not that I know of that would keep them from drafting his grandkid.
Okay. I just want to make sure because I know
that'd be a hell of a way to say we're sorry if there is.
Well, you got to win. You can't go out there and let the kid get crushed.
Well, and they are.
Hey, if it was good for granddad, it's good for the grandson.
Well, here, listen. You know what there definitively is not is bad blood between the city of New Orleans and the Mannings.
Yes.
Like they are such an institution within the community that if there is any bad blood, it is in the Saints the Saints should have squashed that by now, running in the circles that they would all run in around the Crescent City.
But here's a question for you. All right, so you got LSU quarterback, right? So you got that thing going for you. Then you got Archie's grandson who played at Newman, a New Orleans team, but he spurned the home state LSU Tigers to go to Texas,
Could be maybe that's where the beef is.
Yeah.
That could be. Are we drafting based on my opinion, or are we drafting?
I'm a Nuss guy too.
I would go Nuss.
Let's go Nuss.
Yeah.
Bud Elliott turned me on a Nuss 12 months ago. I'm not coming off Nuss. Just don't play like you did in November, and then we'll be good. And now we put you guys in a predicament because you're the New York Giants. You trade up to 25 to get Jackson Dart. You gonna do this to Jackson Dart right in his face 12 months later and take Eli Manning's nephew?
What are the other needs for the Giants? Where else are they going to be looking?
They need a tackle.
Oh, well, this is
and I also say too, the big deal here with the Giants is our coach still here?
Yeah,
that's true.
If he's not, you can still take a quarterback.
Right.
If you Rand, you said tackle so quickly, and I know they just drafted an edge rusher and they just drafted a quarterback in the first round. I say it's Caden Proctor. God don't make many men like him. And that's usually when you see players going that high in the draft, it's because there's not a replacement for some of those gifts. As soon as he set foot on campus in Tuscaloosa, and then even when he was at Iowa for a hot minute and then back to Tuscaloosa, this guy has just been like OT1 everywhere he's been. So if tackle's a need, Proctor's my vote.
All right. There you go. Next up, the Cleveland Browns. I mean, they drafted 2 quarterbacks. They took Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd. I thought he might go undrafted. They took Stuart Sanders in the 5th. I thought he might be no worse than top 40 pick, but here we are, Tom. The other thing that this team needs, they didn't get in the draft or free agency really, is a wide receiver. Offensive line could be a concern, and Myles Garrett might want some help on the other side. They have Mason Graham. So I'll leave it to you in terms of what's best available. I know this wide receiver class isn't particularly deep, based on what you guys talked about on the podcast yesterday in Cover 3, but Cleveland Browns, the world is your oyster.
I would probably go with an edge here because, like you said, they need wide receiver help, but there's, as far as I know right now, there's not a wide receiver in this class worth taking at number 3. I would go to the defensive side of the ball. You've got Graham, you've got Garrett, you've got a very good defensive line. I think you can kind of put things over the edge. My number 1 right now, Ruben Bain out of Miami. I think that last year he dealt with some injuries that kind of impacted him a little bit, but just as far as when you're looking at the prototype of what you're going to want as far as size, length, ability to get off the ball, athleticism, bend, all that kind of fun stuff, I think Ruben Bain is a very, very good football player. And I kind of look at him as the Abdul Carter of this class in that not a lot of people know who he is right now. Like not even like diehard college football fans will know who he is. But I think that he could have that kind of explosive season to where he really puts himself on the map playing for Miami in that defense, because I also think they've got a better defense coming in. I think their defense is going to be much stronger, not just because they improved the talent, I think because of the scheme. And I think Ruben Bain is going to kind of show up a little bit more based on what they're doing. And I think that's going to vault him into that edge one kind of area. So I would go with Ruben Bain. My only concern, Tom, according to Bud Elliott, he's sawed off times 50. There's a lot of sawed off going on yesterday on the podcast. Are we okay with that? Bud just hates the Canes. That's really all that comes down to. Fair enough. All right, next up, New York Jets. I mean, Justin Fields is on a 2-year deal. Can Arch Manning handle the bright lights that his uncle won 2 Super Bowls in? Ran and Chip.
What do you think, Rand? I mean, listen, narrative-wise, just in terms of talking points, if we can get Arch to the Big Apple in the rival team. And look, when have New York Jets not wanting to just sell their soul for a quarterback? I mean, when have they ever not wanted to do that? You tell me if there's other team needs beyond the quarterback position. But if we were playing Arch is eligible rules, this to me sounds like a very fun spot to be able to slot Arch Manning.
No, and that's what I have quarterback down as a need for him. And let's be real, he still gets to play at MetLife, Whether he's
Yeah.
a Fan or a Jet, he's playing at MetLife. I say go with it.
Let's go. Arch Manning.
Can you imagine, like, if Eli wins 2 Super Bowls with the Giants and then Arch comes in and wins a Super Bowl with the Jets? Like, they will name buildings after the Manning family in that city.
No, the one Super Bowl for the Jets will trump both of the ones.
Oh, God, yeah.
No, that's true. All right, Arch is off the board. Tennessee Titans don't need a quarterback at 5, Tom. They had a pretty good draft as well. Rand, I'm gonna send a note to. Again, it's like draft day. I'm gonna call the other GM and ask him for help. What do the Titans? What else do the Titans need now? Everything they've checked the boxes on. Like, who's coming up for contracts and stuff?
So off the top of my head, the offensive line should be solidified, so you don't go there. Let's go look on the defensive side of the ball. They still could be, looking at backer, at inside linebacker. They could be looking for, some guys there. And then Arden Key will be a free agent after this season on the edge. Draymond Jones, they signed a 1-year deal. He could be coming up. And then I'm thinking Sebastian Joseph Day, interior-wise, was only on another 1-year deal. So I probably err on the side of defense and say either interior D-line or edge.
As you were talking, it reminded me of a private conversation we're going to share, because this is, again, Draft Day is my favorite movie. They drafted Kevin Winston Jr. out of Penn State, who I like. Tom, what do you think about Caleb Downs? Is this too rich for him?
I mean, I think Caleb Downs is a really good player. I think it's going to be one of those situations where it's kind of like the Ashton Genty running back situation, where he might be one of the 2 best players in the class. It's just positional value and how teams look at it. Do they want to take a safety this early in the draft? I think when you look at the class right now, as far as talent, he's a top 3 player, especially if you take out the quarterbacks. So if you have that need and you really want to go with it, I would be okay with it. But at the same time, you don't see a lot of safeties going in the top 10 these days. It's like, was Jamal Adams the last one?
That sounds right.
Hey,
I think
he has my early vote. Caleb Downs does, to be my son this year was Malachi Starks. Caleb Downs he's the leading vote getter to be my favorite son. So I'm all for Caleb Downs Carthon right now.
And like, the thing with Caleb Downs is he's so versatile that it feels kind of insulting to call him just a safety, because I feel like you can use him at multiple spots and he would be very effective across the board. So there is that kind of versatility with him. Like, where in your scheme, you could put him in a whole lot of different places and he would play well for you. But
so Tom, I'll say this. So if you think there's more value now at interior or even edge rush defensive line, I'm fine with that too. I just want to throw out one of the names I knew this early in the process.
Yeah, I like Peter Woods.
Okay.
From Clemson.
Done. He's a defensive lineman.
Yeah, he could play. You can kick him. He played edge last year for them. I think you could kick him inside too. Like, I think he gives you versatility along the defensive line, where he can give you pass rush off the edge or maybe inside the, against the guards and center.
All right. Las Vegas Raiders, Rand and Chip.
What are the needs?
So I have receiver and tackle. Receiver was we thought about early in our mock drafts about them going receiver, possibly Teteroa and McMillan, because you still only have Jacoby Myers as your number 1 receiver. And then you also have to think about tackle, because Colton Miller's contract is coming up and he's coming off of injuries and hadn't been healthy. So I would say probably the best available at the wide receiver tackle position. You guys have already said there's probably not a receiver right now that's worth a top 5 pick. So
yeah, that makes it pretty easy. I do not think I think the wide receiver 1 conversation are both between unproven players who you are projecting a really good season for. And I think this is probably too high to be making that jump for players who have flashed in moments like an Evan Stewart, like a Carnell Tate. So let's go to tackle, and let's go with a little Spencer Fano.
Ooh, tackle out of Utah. All right.
Terrible pick. Wow, Chip's going to get fired.
We got him right where we want him, Tom.
So
Next
fast.
up, Carolina Panthers. Pick 7 here. They picked 8 in the actual draft last week. They took Teteroa McMillan. They got a couple of edge rushers in the real life draft from a week ago. Nick Scorton and Princely Uman-Mielen. Trevor Etienne they have as well. I think defensive line makes some sense. There was some talk of maybe Mason Graham slipping there, and you could take him there. Secondary makes some sense. You could even, again, we're having the conversation about wide receivers. No one's going to go this high, but you can make the argument that they could use maybe even one more wide receiver at some point. But with that as the backdrop, Tom, what do you think now?
TJ Parker.
TJ Parker, edge rush Clemson.
Yeah.
And by the way,
I've taken a Clemson defensive lineman in our last 2 picks.
This is a Panthers ass pick too. Dan Morgan just has been drafting SEC dudes, and you know, I know Clemson's like SEC adjacent, especially when it comes to the draft.
And Tom is fulfilling the. Why are you shaking your head, Rand?
No, you're either in the SEC or you're not.
Yeah, like that.
When we were at the Cam Ward Pro Day a month ago, Rand refused to put the Miami lanyard around his neck out of just sheer stubbornness. Also, Chip, Tom is fulfilling the over 6 Clemson first-round picks from your mailbag yesterday as well. That's what he's doing.
I got that 13.5 alt line. I got to,
I got to get that plus money payout.
All right. Cleveland Browns, they have their second first-round pick because of the trade back with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So they now have 2. We took Bain, the edge rusher, earlier out of the U, and now you guys. Oh, we're back on the. No, I'm sorry.
It's us.
No, you guys are doing it. Yeah, sorry. Ooh, got ahead of myself.
All right, with Bain in the hall, what's the next need, Rand?
Well, we're right back at that receiver position. And again, if it's not receiver, corner is the spot because you have Newsome and Emerson. I think will both be free agents following the season. Can't say linebacker because they just spent the second round pick on the kid out of UCLA. Still have JOK. So maybe, honestly, though, I'm trying to even think who are their safeties right now.
I was going to say, we hit the point where I'm not going to let Caleb Downs get much farther. This might be a like best available player situation because you mentioned how you can move him around. I mean, I'll tell you what position he plays, winner. Because when Texas is trying to hit the edge, Caleb Downs, he's the one who busts into the backfield and forces him to go wide to keep Texas from being able to score, even though they marched all the way down the field there in the Cotton Bowl semifinal. They got him running punts back. There was talk about him maybe getting a look at running back at times. I mean, this is just an all-around dude. I love to hear that he's going to be one of your sons for the fall because he is one of my favorite college football players at any position. So I think if we haven't stuck on one thing or another, I'd rather take Caleb Downs than an Evan Stewart, for example.
You all right with that, Rand?
Hey, Caleb Downs, Carthon, let's do it.
Let's go.
Hey, listen, we've already got the commissioner to announce Travis Hunter as a wide receiver DB, which they've never done before. Now we're going to push for the back of his jersey to say Downs Carthon when he's drafted. And pose it up.
CDC. And by the way, Ronnie Hickman and Grant Delpit are the current safeties in Cleveland. So Caleb Downs.
Yeah, definitely Caleb Downs.
Yeah. All right, the Colts are up, Tom. We are the Indianapolis Colts. I feel like if there's a quarterback that you like, that could be a serious consideration. I don't know if you guys, I don't know where I saw this, and I'm old, so I forget, but I love the idea of Riley Moss being their 5th round pick, and someone compared Riley Moss to equal parts Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, which I think is exactly who Riley Moss is. And it could be a situation where none of the three are in the quarterback room a year from now. So that's my starting point. But if you think there's other positions that make more sense or better value, Tom, I'm all ears to that too.
Well, I mean, I do feel like if Anthony Richardson doesn't hit in 2025, your hand's been kind of forced at that point.
Right.
But I don't know if there's a QB here where it's like I'm dying to go get. Like, could they use a tackle? Because there is a tackle left I really like.
Oh, yeah. Yep, absolutely. So Bernard Raimond out of Central Michigan I'm not sure if they're re-upped him or not, but he was 25 coming out of his draft class 3 or 4 years ago. So that's a consideration. They do have Braden Smith, but you can never have enough offensive tackles, and I would certainly be okay with that. Just let me double check. And they drafted Jalen Travis out of Iowa State in the 4th round, but there's no guarantee that he's going to be a starter anytime soon.
I just think Francis Mauigoa is a ready-made NFL right tackle.
All right.
I thought he took a huge leap last year at that spot, particularly as a pass blocker. But I just think that, if we see him make that kind of growth in his 3rd season, like that he had last year, this is going to be a guy that could be in the running for, the first tackle taken.
Out of the U. I'm have no issue with that on any level. Fully embrace it, fully endorse it. All right, we'll do pick 10 here before we take a break. The Seattle Seahawks. And the Seahawks, I don't want to say they went chalk. They got Eman Wari in the second round, which you thought was going to happen. Gray Zabel felt like a Seahawks pick, so they addressed the offensive line in the secondary. And they got Elijah Arroyo, the tight end, who feels like, an upgraded version of Noah Fant. The quarterback situation, Sam Darnold, quotations mark for now. So that's where they currently find themselves in Seattle.
Yeah, so as your pro director, getting team needs, they just crushed our hopes of getting a tackle here, because that's where, unless there's another tackle, you like this high, because I do think that they're going to, Abe Lucas, I think, will be a free agent after the season at right tackle. Charles Cross, I'm pretty sure he's close to getting an extension. And then too, I think they still need an outside X vertical receiver, because I think Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp are kind of the same guy to me and don't really threaten you on the perimeter. So for me, the two biggest ones are tackle and wide receiver. And what did they do in the draft in terms of inside linebacker?
So they got here we go, linebacker. They did not get an off-ball linebacker in the draft.
And that could be another spot, because Mike McDonald, so he's got his safety, because I saw something the other day where they said they plan on using Eman Wari like Kyle Hamilton. And then now they're going to need a running mate for Ernest Jones, their backer that they just signed to a multi-year deal. So he's going to need a running mate next to him.
So I will admit that one of the positions where it's a little bit of a weakness is, sometimes I will force through the scheme fit, right? Like, I just believe football players are football players, and I say that with no high-level football playing experience. But there is a player on one of the most talented rosters in the country at the linebacker position that I love. And I think that at 10, we got a chance here to be able to get something somewhat appropriate positioning. So, Rand, I don't know if you've gotten your eyes on Anthony Hill, but that is somewhat like, that is a phenomenal linebacker who just goes out there and is just production. He's always near the ball, great vision, like just constant. He's played in like 30 games, 22 starts. Like, it is a huge body of work of him being awesome at a high level on one of the best teams in the country. So if linebacker is somewhere in the mix there, does Anthony Hill sound like a pick you'd be interested in?
Yeah, man. You look at what Mike McDonald came from before he got to Seattle. He had Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen at one point, just lining up next to each other. You had the hammer, and you had the guy that could play laterally and go get it. And now you have the hammer and Ernest Jones. You just don't have that guy that could play lateral and sideline to sideline. And you had me at production, and it's always around the ball. And that's what this defense is all about.
Awesome.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back here, we'll rip through picks 11 through 32 right after this.
The crowd loves champions.
Gladiator 2 is an epic spectacle.
To amuse you is my only wish.
The glory is yours, not mine.
Very good.
Gladiator 2, rated R. Now streaming on Paramount+.
All right, Tom. We are the New England Patriots. And here's the thing. They desperately need to add some skill position players, but we're in a position where I don't know if there's a running back that we love this high. Jeremiah Love, I know he had some injury concerns. He's special. They did draft a running back in Trey Henderson in the second round. Wide receivers, as you guys made clear, is not where it exactly needs to be at pick 11. So we can go going best available at pick 11, or we can try to find some needs to give Mike Vrabel more weapons on defense. Like I'm at a loss, to be honest with you, because quarterback obviously is settled.
I mean, I do feel like you're kind of reaching for a wide receiver at this spot based on talent, although there's one guy I think that would fit well with Drake May. How are they at corner?
They're pretty good because they didn't take, obviously, Travis, but they just signed Carlton Davis, and they have Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah, so they're not like in a desperate need for a corner.
Marcus Jones, he might be near the end of his deal. I don't think he got re-upped. He's a smaller nickelback. But I don't know if you want to take a Jahdae Barron type at number 11 if there's not a Jahdae Barron in the class.
Let's give him Jeremiah Love.
All right, done.
Yeah.
I mean, I I'm on the record. I'll stand by it. I think Love is a better player than Ashton Genty, or a better prospect.
Oh, that's a home run then. All right, done and done. All right. The Los Angeles Rams, Rand Carthon's old team. This is from the Falcons pick to get James Pierce Jr. So Rand and Chip, you guys are on the clock. Quarterback might be a need. Just saying.
I was going to say QB. Matthew Stafford, obviously he is what he is at his age. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is probably coming up after this year. And then the other guy, Stetson Bennett, that they have. So
to me, and like Rand, you're going to have so much better insight on this, but if you've got a choice, with Drew Aller, it feels, I'm not going to call him a joystick quarterback, but he makes good decisions, Yeah, well, except in the semifinal against Notre Dame when his brain broke and he threw it across his body for an interception at midfield in the biggest part of the game. Okay, that's obviously a red flag. But in general, you're talking about a guy who takes care of the ball. I cannot say that for Cade Klubnik. Cade Klubnik maybe offers a little bit more in terms of that, real athletic-based playmaking, doing something on the fly, but he will take risks that Drew Aller will not necessarily take. So if we're deciding between those two, where do you think the Rams would go between Aller and Klubnik?
It sounds like Aller, just because of what Sean asked his quarterbacks to do. And Sean does a really good job with those guys and putting those guys in advantageous positions to make the game easy for them. If you look at the transition from Jared Goff, his early start, to when he got with Sean and how he was able to progress. So it sounds like that, because a guy that's constantly putting the ball in harm's way, we may end up having, CBS flirting with Sean to do a broadcasting deal. And it's a quarterback like that, it'll drive him crazy. So I'll say go with Drew Aller.
All right, let's go Drew Aller from Penn State.
All right, the Fighting Ryan Strikers finally come off the board. Penn State, Drew Aller, or as I call him, Robot. Okay, Miami Dolphins up next. Tom, like a quarterback could be in the conversation here. We don't know how healthy Tua can stay. They did draft Quinn Ewers in round 7, but I think a glaring need, and they're trying to move on from Jalen Ramsey. They didn't draft a quarterback until the 5th round last week. If there's a cornerback that gets you going, I would be okay with that.
I already had the name as soon as I saw we had the Dolphins next. Malik Muhammad, Texas.
Yeah.
All right.
Barron obviously was the star for them. He's the draft pick, but I do think Malik Muhammad is also a very good player who will be their best corner in 2025 and will be the guy getting first-round buzz with the Longhorns. That's
how you do it. No hesitation. Run the card in, have a sip of beer, and then let you guys pick. Dallas Cowboys up next.
Yeah, we were actually reminiscing about, your former co-host Rick Spielman and getting the footage of him watching the Eagles take Jalen Reagor instead of Justin Jefferson. Great moments in NFL draft history.
He gets so angry about that. I wasn't angry. I wasn't happy about the Jalen. It was something else. Okay, sure.
Oh, okay. Okay. You having the same reaction as Zimmer and as everybody else on that Zoom call. Okay. All right, Rand, what do we need for the Cowboys?
They still need that receiver.
All right.
Is it too early? 14?
I don't think so.
Okay.
14?
Where I'm going.
That's not where you would go?
I'm just saying, I know where I'm going on the wide receiver board.
Oh, like you're dialed into it? Well, who would it be? Let's make this is this more competition or education?
Well, Rand helped me out earlier with the Titans pick, so we owe you a favor.
We've got a couple phone of friends.
Yeah.
All right. How do you feel so confident? Who are you dialed in on right there?
He's not the first name on that list. He's not the second, third, fourth, or fifth either.
Are you saying Carnell Tate? I've got Evan Stewart and Carnell Tate and Nick Anderson. Those are the 3 players. Carnell Tate. I like that. Okay. Because Carnell Tate's got more size than Stewart does.
Yeah. I just think that he's a good complement to what they have with CD.
Okay. Right. I didn't have any good reference there, but I know Carnell Tate's got more like physical tools than Stewart does. But yeah, let's do it. Carnell Tate.
All right. Wide receiver U continues to be wide receiver U. Next up, Tom Weir, the Arizona Cardinals. They have crushed the last 2 drafts. They got Walter Nolan, Will Johnson in round 2, and then Jordan Burch in round 3 last week. It's wild to say this team doesn't have a ton of needs. So if there's a best player available that strikes you, I'm all ears for that.
Well, I'll help you guys a little bit.
What do you got?
There's been a recent rumor that they're shopping Zaven Collins.
Okay, so off ball.
Yeah, well, they moved him to the edge.
Okay, there we go.
So that could be a spot potentially.
So right, they got Jordan Burch, Darius Robinson, and then Walter Nolan's going to play inside. But that you can never have enough edge rushers. So let me know what you're thinking, Tom, in terms of things that pop out to you.
If we want to go edge, I'm stuck between two guys. I'm trying to figure out like what they kind of look for in Arizona. What are their
The last two guys they drafted were 6'5", 280.
Yeah, see, that's what I was thinking. That's why I'm stuck between Overton and Deny Dennis Sutton, because both of them kind of fit that bill.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it could easily just come down to which one has the better season. I like them both. I will go with Overton just because he seems to be higher on the consensus boards.
Done. Love it. Thank you, Rand, for that. Now we owe you another phone a friend.
Thank you.
All right, guys, don't mess up my Pittsburgh Steelers. They might need a quarterback. Thank God Drew Eller's off the board up to hear that.
You got Aaron Rodgers for like the next 5 years. He's going to be there forever, bro.
I'm a Bears fan.
All right, Rand, what do you think? Is it quarterback?
Yeah, I was going to say we should acquiesce and let Ryan make this pick just by himself.
I will just say this. I will unsolicited. I'll be the telemarketer making the phone call to your end. A guy that I watched yesterday and that I absolutely love, and you guys mentioned him briefly on the podcast, Cover 3 podcast. My guy, Mendoza from Cal, transferred to Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
He, to me, is what Tyler Shuck was supposed to be. Big arm, 6'5". He's a better athlete than you might think. I don't know if he's going to go to the side, but that's just my 2 cents. By the way, Nico Yamaliava, is he going to be out, or are we just trying to hope that he gets his family in order? In terms
he's got a lot of developing left to do.
Okay.
I think talent-wise, he's got what you want. We need to see him develop and grow up a little bit as well.
For what it's worth, that is going to be, if he comes out this year, that should be interesting, this whole draft process and how he handled the exit from Tennessee. That is going to be an interesting thing to follow.
100%.
All right, so you guys can do what you want, but I'm a Francisco Mendoza.
I hear that Ryan's a real big Carson Beck guy. I'm sure he would love to see him in a Steelers uniform.
No, we don't want bad vibes back. No. We don't want bad vibes back. We don't want Nico. No. I think we just got to take the guy who just he does it all for the paw, And we continue to charge 13.5 first-round picks for Clemson Tigers. Come on down, Cade Klubnik.
Cade Klubnik. All right. Hope you're right, Chip. I don't want to hold this against you. Oh, perfect. Next up, Tom, Chicago Bears. We don't have to go through the needs here, Tom. You know what's up.
Darn, Caleb Downs didn't fall to 17 because I was going to say they could use him. I think you look at them. They are going to need to. I'm assuming that edge rusher will still be a need for the Bears after this year. I'm assuming they would be in the market for a corner after this year. So I think those are the two positions I would really be looking at. And as far as what's available, I mentioned, when we just made the Overton pick a couple picks ago, if you look at Dennis Allen's defensive history, there's also a certain type of edge rusher he likes, and Deny Dennis Sutton fits that. So I will take Deny Dennis Sutton for the Chicago Bears.
Golly, two of Strikers guys off the board. Penn State represent. All right, next up, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sorry, Denver Broncos, my bad. Chip and Rand, you guys are the Denver Broncos. Another team that somehow has very few needs after drafting Bo Nix. Wrap your brain around that.
I can't.
What do you think, Rand?
I say the biggest need is probably linebacker, inside linebacker. And some of that has to do with, I don't know if you guys just saw, but Dre Greenlaw is hurt right now and supposed to miss 8 weeks or so. And so his injury history is a bit of a concern. And I'm not quite sure how his deal is structured. But because of that history, I'm pretty sure they could get out of it pretty quick if he can't stay healthy, which will still leave them with a need at inside backer. So I'd go inside backer.
Come on down, C.J. Allen, linebacker out of Georgia, had a really, really good sophomore season. And that Georgia defensive front has turned over a lot. I think that's another example of someone who I am projecting because I like them as a player. but I'm picking because I like them as a player, but I'm also projecting that it is just going to be so easy for the NFL to see another blue chip, super productive, like really talented Georgia linebacker on the board, and they're not going to let him get out of the first round.
All right. I love it. Next up, Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 19. They got Emeka Ibuka, then Benjamin Morrison, and they got Jacob Parrish, the undersized corner out of Kansas State. And then they drafted 2 edge rushers in rounds 4 and 5, Tom. I think they can still use an edge. Their offensive line looks to be in pretty good shape. Their wide receiver core looks to be in pretty good shape now with maybe you could add another guy. If there's a guy here around this range that makes sense, because Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are still pretty long in the tooth. Chris Godwin's coming off the injury, even though they do have Emeka Ibuka. So I would say maybe defensive line edge rush and then maybe wide receiver. Or if there's the best available that's catching your eye, I'm certainly down for that too.
Do you feel like they would want a corner who could maybe, is good in pass coverage, but you can also put him maybe in the slot and he'd help out in run defense? Do you feel like that's something that Todd Bowles would appreciate?
Rand, I would defer to you, but that feels like something Todd would be all in on.
Yeah, absolutely. And who's the corner that they took in the draft?
Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, because I'm not quite sure. I think Jamel Dean may be a free agent after the season.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so, having Benjamin Morris and Jamel Dean, like they're going to physically just punch people in the face at the line of scrimmage and not allow them to get off. So, yeah, they probably would look to have a more of a nickel. Well, but then again, Antoine Winfield Jr. kind of plays some of that too. But you allow him to kind of man the post and take some of the heavy lifting off of his plate because he has dealt with injuries too over the last couple of years. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's it might not be the biggest need, but when I watch Avion Terrell, he just seems like kind of a Todd Bowles corner.
Why did I know it was going to be a Clemson guy?
I just go Tigers, go. It's just, nothing like running down that hill and touching Howard's Rock, just to do my favorite traditions. But no, he strikes me as like when I watch him, it's like, okay, that's a Todd Bowles corner.
Okay, done.
He does a lot of the things you see Todd Bowles have his corners do.
By the way, as an old person, I pray for Dabo every time he goes down the hill that he doesn't.
Oh, he's going to hurt himself one of these days.
He's going to hurt himself without question. Like, slow down, man. Get one of those parachutes on your back. All right,
he is going to blow an Achilles and just go tumbling down that hill, and I'm going to be like, oh, no.
I feel some sarcasm in your voice there, Tom. All right, pick 20.
If Dabo blows his Achilles, I will feel bad for it.
Yeah,
I will not be taking pleasure in it.
I was trying to race right through that so you couldn't rebut. Houston's at pick 20, and we'll take a break here after pick 20. Rand and Chip, I'm not even sure what this team needs. They've done a pretty good job drafting, especially helping out old CJ Stroud with the offensive line, but you guys may feel differently.
I say interior D-line.
Okay.
Because you got Sheldon Rankins. I think he'll be up after his year, as will Tim Settle Jr. is their other defensive tackle. So I think right now, they will go D tackle. And, keep the Gator shop. Come on, big Caleb.
Yeah, Caleb Banks, let's go.
I heard, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the young man's name who weighed over 450 pounds. He got signed by the Buccaneers, for what it's worth. I don't know what his scouting report was, but someone at that pro day said that was the biggest human they'd ever seen in their life.
It's large.
Very large. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll rip through these last 11 picks here. And we'll do that right after this.
They want to take this place from us. My family is in danger. My wife is lost to me, and I don't have time. 1923, new season now streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus.
All right, we'll pretend this is day 3, and let's set a 30-second time clock so we can get out of here. Because enough folks have things to do, and we appreciate the Cover 3 guys taking time. All right, Tom, we're the Minnesota Vikings. You are a Bears fan, so you can, if you want to take a kicker here, I'm okay with that. But I do wonder, we don't know what J.J. McCarthy's going to be, so that's a need. Potentially, we'll see. But otherwise, maybe safety might be a need. They didn't take a safety. Harrison Smith's a little long in the tooth. We're going to go defensive back there. I don't know how many more years he has. They drafted Donovan Jackson in the first round.
Yeah. trying to feel like I don't know if there's a tight end I feel like is really worthy of a first round pick, at least right now.
Interesting.
But they want another receiver.
I mean, the Jalen Naylor's their slot, so they could use one.
Yeah, I mean, but the guy, I don't know if, I mean, how many, he got decent amount of slot looks out of the slot, but I really like Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. If you look at it, like Jeremiah Smith, tons of attention for the right reasons, because he's very good. But out of guys who are coming back next year, Jordan Tyson's number 2 in receiving yards. Like he had a very good season for Arizona State. And I just think that he has another year like that in a season like this, where there's not a huge, like clear wide receiver number 1. He has the ability to climb pretty quick.
All right, let's do it. Next up, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Fighting Jim Harbaughs, and let's see here.
Running back. They're going to just collect them all.
Yeah, Omari Hampton, first-round pick last week. Trey Harris, the wide receiver at Ole Miss, and then Jamari Caldwell out of Oregon, defensive lineman, were their first 3 picks.
They need to run it back on D-line. Interior D-line, because before the draft they had 5 on the active roster. 3 were going to be free agents after the season, and the other guy serves as the starting fullback. So
okay. Well, if interior D-line's on the table, let's go Georgia's Kristen Miller.
Good pick.
Georgia versus Clemson in the battle for most picks in the first round.
That makes sense. I mean,
all right, Tom, we are the San Francisco 49ers. And, I mean, they actually have a ton of needs. Outside of quarterback, and they're about to re-sign Brock Purdy. They just re-upped the tight end George Kittle. They took Michael Williams, edge rusher out of Georgia, Alfred Collins, defensive lineman, Nick Martin, linebacker, Upton Stout, cornerback, C.J. West, defensive lineman. Those are their first 5 picks. So maybe you could think about wide receiver here if there is one. We just took one 2 picks ago. Offensive line could be a consideration. Trent Williams isn't going to play forever. We keep saying that every year. So I'll let you.
He keeps playing.
And he keeps playing.
I kind of feel like they'd want to go line of scrimmage one more time. I just don't think you can ever have enough edge guys.
Yeah, and it's a good group.
Yeah.
Like we keep talking about edge and corner. I like those. I like both of those positions at the top of the board.
Give me the name that's fun to say. Give me the guy who's very talented and showed some very excellent flashes of production last year in a hideous-looking uniform. Give me out of the University of Oregon, Mateo Uiagalelei.
Nice. And that is, in fact, TJ's brother. Is that what I heard yesterday?
Yeah, that's right. Big Dave finally gets the first-round pick he was promised.
That's disrespectful. Look at Ray laughing at that. All right, next up, the Green Bay Packers. I would imagine they only draft receivers, but you guys and finally took one in the first round, but you guys are free to go in any direction you choose.
What you think, Ray? Corner?
You got to figure out what's going on with Jair. And then they just got this previous the kid they took out of Georgia. They allowed him to walk in free agency. They took in the first round a couple of years ago.
Eric Stokes.
Yeah, Stokes. So I think corner's a need.
Let's bring him in, Jermod McCoy. I don't if you're watching along on YouTube, you see that the average draft position so far in this is 10. I think that is a little high. There are other corners that have been taken here that I would take before McCoy, but McCoy is in that top tier. And I think that after him, we start to drop down a little bit faster in terms of the overall big board.
Very athletic.
Next up, Cincinnati Bengals, and they had a peculiar draft. Shamar Stewart's an insane athlete, just not the production ever we saw at Texas A&M. Then they took 2 linebackers. I did like the Dylan Fairchild pick, the guard out of Georgia. And my favorite pick was Taj Brooks, the running back out of Texas Tech. Outside of wide receiver and quarterback, Tom, I think whatever sticks out to you might be a good starting point.
I mean, we got to protect Joe Burrow. That's got to be our number one. So I'm going to look. I mean, who are their tackles?
Right now, their tackles are Orlando Brown and Amari Smith's the first rounder from a year ago who battled injury, but he had injury issues at Georgia, but he's a mammoth of a human being and fantastic athlete. Just got to stay healthy.
Yeah. So let's maybe go on the inside. We're going to take the guard out of Texas A&M, Armaj Reed Adams.
Reed Adams. All right. The Commanders, Ran and Chip, again, a team with not a ton of picks or not a ton of needs, after nailing the certainly the last year's draft class.
Edge.
All right. So yeah, Keldrick Falk, Auburn.
Jeez, it's easy.
Yeah. Again, just like I've got just overall a lot of these edge guys, a lot of these corners. They're just, I think they're all very, very good players.
All right, the Rams are back on the clock. Their second first-round pick. They traded down last week. I can't remember what the circumstances were, but they traded out of the first round. I don't think they picked until 46. So they took Drew Aller up top. That was a chip and ran production, Tom. They are back on the clock here. And let's see what else they need.
They can still use a receiver, I think.
Yep, that's a good call. They currently have Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell. So if there's a receiver there that you like, let me know. In the draft, they took Konate Munfield out of Pitt with their 7th round pick. Good player, but I don't know if he's going to make the team.
Yeah, I like Eric Singleton. I just think that he's a little too much of what they already have. So give me the X guy, the guy they can put on the outside. Give me Denzel Boston out of Washington.
Let's go. Is that a good moan or a bad moan, Tom, Chip?
A good one.
Okay, good.
Yeah, because he was identifying the scheme fit, the positional fit. That was a
Yeah, we take our job seriously over here. So next up, the Detroit Lions at pick 28, and they traded 2 third-round picks to move up to get my guy Isaac Tesla out of Arkansas. I love that. Brad Holmes said that was his favorite wide receiver in this draft class. Tyreek Williams, Tate Ratledge, defensive line, offensive guard, their first 2 picks there as well. So the floor is yours, guys.
Edge.
You just sit in the back with a sign, you just hold it up.
Well, you know what? That's great because I haven't run out of options on my board. Come on down, David Bailey. David Bailey, you see this little Stanford logo. That's not where he will be playing because as soon as the head coach got fired, he got the ability to hit the portal whenever he wanted. And he went where the money was, and I do not fault him for it. He will be at Texas Tech. And this is one thing I love about it. That means he is going to have a lot of reps, a lot of snaps per game against Big 12 offensive lines, which means he's going to go and wreck shop. So David Bailey is going to have a ton of production this year, permitted he stays healthy as always. He's a very talented player. Let's go David Bailey.
I've heard through the grapevine, but that I mean our buddy Cooper Tagner, that Texas Tech might be legit this year. Is that fair?
I mean, they've got a really good transfer class coming in, but that's the thing with transfers we've seen. You can either hit and have an incredible season, or you can miss and have a terrible season. Florida State's had one of both so far. Use them as a
good point. That's a good point. Ole Miss on defense last year too. Those guys probably should have been undefeated, and they were. All right, we are the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, I thought they crushed this draft. They got a left tackle of the future in Josh Simmons if he's healthy. I suppose defensive line could be an option. Tom, through someone there. Maybe the secondary, like the safety position, like they have Jaden Hicks and Brian Cook, who are 2 young, good players. Like there's not a lot that stands out to me as a concern. Maybe if there's a tight end here that you think, but again, they seem to find these guys like walking around the street.
This is just for me. This is a talent thing. This is the guy I think will be good. I don't whether Kansas City needs him or not. AJ Harris, the corner out of Penn State.
I'm fine with that.
I think Penn State's done such a good job developing defensive backs, and I think AJ Harris is already on a very good trajectory, and he could very easily be a first rounder next year.
Congratulations, Striker. That's 3 Penn State guys. So we are definitely on another planet than the one we're currently on.
Brought a bunch of dudes back.
And like, didn't AJ start at Georgia?
Yes.
Like starts at Georgia, like blue chip prospect out of high school, transfers to Penn State, and they loved him there. And
I think Jim Knowles is going to wring every bit of potential and talent out of that kid this year.
Yep.
All right, Buffalo Bills, Ran and Chip.
I'd say edge again, but
they're pretty good.
Did they draft a safety this year, Ryan?
They drafted Jordan Hancock at Ohio State in round 5. So he's a good player, but he's not necessarily gonna push the 2 guys that he currently have.
And then what about the corner position? They drafted someone, right?
Maxwell Harrison at the bottom of the 1st, and then Dorian Strong out of Tech in the 6th round.
Yeah, so I would say either edge or safety on this one.
Let's grab that second name right there. It says Purdue, but he'll be playing this year at Oregon. Dylan Tianneman.
I've heard good things about him.
Rugged player. And it'll be fun to see him step in because Oregon has had to lean. They had a guy named Kobe Savage on the back end of their defense last year, but it was the same sort of mentality in terms of you being able to get in there and clean up. And I don't know how much Purdue you watched recently, gentlemen, but there's a lot of cleaning up to be done on the back end of that defense, given the overall talent level. And Tiananmen's a good player.
I think Marcus Bowe was the only reason I watched Purdue last year. So that is the extent of my Purdue watching in 2024. All right, we're the Baltimore Ravens, Tom. I think if there's a wide receiver, I think that could make some sense. They have Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman, but then DeAndre Hopkins. But we've always talked about wide receivers there. I mean, if there's a running back, I could sort of get behind that. They didn't take a running back in the draft either. And they have, of course, King Henry. But again, he's 31-ish at this point. But what do you think?
Nick Singleton, running back, Penn State.
Oh, yeah. I love Nick. Or Penn State guy, striker.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great player.
Yeah.
Sort of surprised he came back.
I just think, Singleton and Love, I think, will be the two running backs getting all the first-round buzz next spring.
I love it. All right. To wrap this thing up, the Fighting Howie Rosemans, Chip and Ran. What do you want? They literally need nothing.
Yeah, Chip, close your eyes, put your hands over your eyes, and just scroll down and just stop, and then just take.
You know what the answer is here.
Is it?
What
is it Jalen Everett? Do we have to take a Georgia Bulldog?
I was going to say, if it's a Georgia Bulldog, there's a 70% chance that they would take him.
Yeah. I like Jalen Everett out of Georgia. He's a quarterback who's still on my list, and he is a Georgia Bulldog. So yeah, let's go Jalen Everett.
Golly, is that what you were thinking, Tom?
No, but I think that's a good pick. I was thinking Deontay Lawson just because it's an Alabama linebacker who just kind of fell into their lap at the end.
Kind of like Jahad Campbell.
After they took Jahad Campbell, so they'd take Jahad's replacement too.
Well, this is the thing about Deontay Lawson, because Deontay Lawson is one of my favorite players right now. But to Rand's point earlier, he's going to show up to the NFL with a lot of miles.
Yeah.
You know, 4 years of playing a lot of Alabama football. Right. So, you know, that'll be something to see if it becomes an issue during the process.
All right, guys, we'll go ahead and declare the winner. Tom and I won, but I appreciate you and Rand trying, Chip. I love having the Cover 3 guys on every year. So thanks for taking a little time out, guys. And if you love college football, check out Cover 3. Also, Danny Kanell and Bud Elliott. But that is it for us here today. We'll be back twice next week and for the foreseeable future. So for Tom and Chip and Rand, I'm Ryan Wilson. Thanks to Striker for producing. Thanks to all you guys who watch, listen, and comment. And we'll see you in the next one.